Welcome to the Take a Seat podcast. This is Mario.
And Clint.
And tonight, thank you for joining us. Liking, sharing, not sharing, whatever. Thanks for listening. It's appreciated. We have a couple of fans out there. Thank you to all 5 of you. It's okay. I'm not even joking about it, frankly.
No.
Whatever.
I'm appreciative of people listening at all.
Yeah. Well, see, the few that we do have, right? Like we have some general views, and then we have some actual fans of the show itself. I actually know all 5 of them, and all 5 of them are like really respectable people that like draw something from it.
Yeah.
And I like that. So I'd rather have that than have filler, and then never get any feedback.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm perfectly fine with it.
Yeah. Same.
And then everybody starts somewhere. So
yeah.
Anyway, speaking of starting somewhere, society started in secret organizations. Nah, I'm jumping way too ahead of it. So tonight's topic is actually conspiracy theories. The reason I bring this up is I was listening to a podcast, as usual. Y'all know I listen to a bunch of podcasts. This particular podcast was a replay that I rewatched just for comedic purposes and for entertainment. But it is in regards to the Illuminati and Bohemian Grove. Now, to those of you that are not aware of what either one of those 2 entities or organizations are, brief summary. Actually, no, not brief summary, because that's what we're going to dive into. So, I was listening to this, and actually before I heard this podcast, this is like November or October of last year. I was aware of the Illuminati, and I was aware that, everyone's under control of something. Someone's in control of everybody in general.
Yeah.
Certain institutions, certain financial ladders, certain things are in place and are designed to be that way to either keep people out of them or to bring other people in. And I've always known that all you have to do is just look to the ones that at least follow the steps, right? People that come from money tend to stay in money in some sense. People that don't come from money and don't even see the ladder of how to get out of it, of poverty, how to get out of it and elevate in some type of financial freedom per se.
Yeah.
They stay down there and they don't know and they don't care. So it turns into out of sight, out of mind. And I'm removing circumstances like, fathers leaving their kids. I'm removing tragedy. I'm just speaking about like just say the average consumer, right?
Yeah.
So I heard about this Bohemian Grove through the podcast, and it was terrifying and enlightening at the same time. The reason it was terrifying is because, I know you know about it, but I'm obviously explaining for the audience.
Yeah.
It's because what I didn't know is that this organization was created by, I think it was a former president, or the person that created it was in cahoots with a former president, whether it's FDR or Reagan, one of those 2. Like it was one of the deep right ones. And they created this private organization in the 1800s or I'm way off on Reagan. It was early on in the 1900s or late 1800s, one of those 2. Sorry. So they created this Bohemian Grove. It's like 4,000 acres somewhere in California. And the purpose of this place is for the rich and the elite. I don't mean just like NBA players elite. See, NBA players may have money, but they don't have that status in those organizations per se. Those are reserved for the people like the Epsteins of the world, or the people that are like the Harvey Weinsteins, like actual power and influence, not just in a specific field, but in, quite frankly, the world and certain different cultures, right? Like a lot of people are really dependent on how some elite individuals act, frankly, whether you realize it or not, whether you like it or not, frankly. So Bohemian Grove was designed for these elite men to go there, have sex with children, have sex with themselves, have orgies. I mean, do any and every single wild thing that goes on in Pornhub, but in real life with each other. And the thing is that not only do some of them go to these places voluntarily, but some people, now again, I have all of this is completely speculatory technically, and there is no actual hard evidence other than Alex Jones having video documentation and his own testimony and other people coming forward. And take him how you will as a controversial person, but it just specifically focusing on Bohemian Grove, I think that is some pretty good evidence. Because why would somebody just deliberately make up something out of nowhere, right? But then it's been confirmed actually by Ronald Reagan. There was an actual interview with him, and he actually referenced Bohemian Grove on his own accord. I forgot exactly where. But I was looking at the presentation from Alex Jones and all that.
Yeah.
On this podcast. So these people, they'll invite other individuals that have no idea what's going on in Bohemian Grove. Mm-hmm. And they will say, you want some pussy, or you want a kid or two. And most rational people will probably be shocked by what the heck they see. But the fact that they already are there, they'll start taking pictures of them and video and all that. Just them being present already criminalizes them. And so they start using that video and those photos as evidence.
Blackmail.
It's blackmail, yeah. Exactly. And so it's super hush-hush. Nobody's supposed to know. No, everybody. If anybody does question it or ask about it, deny everything. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
It's wild, man. It's insane that those types of entities exist. And sure, to most, it's out of sight, out of mind. But it's a huge problem because these are basically, it's a confirmation that there is a group of elite that are in charge of basically a lot of the population of this world, right? And a lot of them have heavy influence in lawmaking and certain senators or even Congress.
Yeah.
And again, this is all speculatory, but it's just all rigged. You can make the argument. It's rigged against minorities. It's rigged against the middle class. It's designed to
against
keep everyone.
Family.
Yeah, exactly. Family, keeping everyone in check, everyone in place.
Yeah.
Like even the idea that you need to get a bachelor's degree, I think was something that was enforced in the 50s and 60s after World War I and II for people to have something to do. And because I'm guessing at that time, a lot of soldiers came back and they just wanted to see their families, but there was also a drug situation going on, especially transitioning into the Vietnam War, where heroin was a huge deal. This is documented. This specific point is not speculatory. This is documented.
Yeah.
Veterans coming back from the Vietnam War had serious heroin, opioid, drug issues and huge withdrawals while they were over there and over here. It was insane how much it was actually going on. But that was also by design. Speculatory point.
Mm-hmm.
It was speculated that Ronald Reagan was in cahoots with the CIA and with the Vietnamese government and was using the troops on both sides as gerbils, as hamsters for certain drugs and for certain behavior studies and then gas attacks and all that. That's where they introduced the, not napalm, it was something...
Agent Orange?
Agent Orange, that's right. That's exactly where they introduced it. And see, to the uneducated or those that don't even bother looking into it, I don't blame you. Frankly, it's not even your problem. I don't blame you. But I think that's part of the problem. Like, we are all in a specific situation, whatever it is financially, but it was by design. You work your way up the way that Clinton and I always say it all the time. We're saying, put your bootstraps back on. Sure, circumstances may be different, but you can always work a way out. I get all of that. But why is that premise existing? That's not by coincidence. That was designed to keep, in my opinion now, us in check. So that the general population does not, everyone doesn't want to be rich. Like, so that everyone's not like, I want to be rich, so I'm going to go and kill everybody to do this. Somebody had to come up with the idea that, okay, we can't have all this tribalism and everything going like it was going on in the 17 and 1800s, because if you think about it, in the 19th century, from 1900 to current 2020, society has revolutionized itself on multiple occasions. I don't think it was just us and just human intuition and the brilliance of the human mind. Sure, that may have been a component of all of this, right? But for a society that evolved in literally 120 years and progressed way more than it did in thousands of years before, there is no way you can convince me that is a coincidence. At least not to me. Mm-hmm. This is just a speculatory mindset. This is just me looking into this stuff, and it can be quite overwhelming because you can get lost in this hole. And it's easy to see once you actually do the research.
Yeah.
How some people can come off as crazy. Because, sorry.
No, the thing is like, so I found out about Bohemian Grove and the Illuminati in 2010. And at that time, you would be able to look up this stuff on YouTube, and there would be so many videos on YouTube with 2-3 hour explanations of all of the different secret societies, all of the different families.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, the Rothschilds. Mm-hmm. That's one of the historical families that are a part of this this secret group of people that hold all of the power. The people that are on the Forbes list are not the richest people.
Right.
Elon Musk is not the richest person.
Right.
He's just the richest person that we're allowed to know of.
Right.
Because there's 13 families that actually control, according to the studies that I've done of the Illuminati, there's 13 families that have quote unquote pure bloodlines that participate in incest in order to maintain their bloodline. And at Bohemian Grove, it's more than just sex. These are rituals that they perform, and it's more than just blackmail as well. These are rituals that they perform for power. They have this monument of an owl there, that owl is a pagan god that they worship, and they sacrifice on altars there unto that god. And they believe in many gods, or they worship many gods. They worship Egyptian gods. They worship old pagan gods like Molech, gods like Baal and Beelzebub. They worship many gods for different reasons, at least according to the research that I've done. But
I'm trying to get the name of the actual owl god while you explain that.
Yeah, and it's sick, man. I read a book by a man who I'm not going to name because of my interest in the Illuminati and whether or not this was all true. And I got so curious. I was holding off from reading this book, dude.
Yeah.
I held off for probably 10 years trying not to read this book.
Really?
Because it was written by one of, you could say, the founders. He's one of the most respected in the Satanic Church, and he's one of the most respected in the occult in general. Ooh. Because he wrote so many books on magic and sexual rituals and blood sacrifices. And I was so curious. One day I ended up reading that book, and honestly, that book haunted me after reading it for probably a straight year because of how wicked it was. And all it did was confirm exactly what I knew about, or exactly what I was taught about secret societies and what they do and why they do it. Because they believe that you gain power through these sexual rituals, and that you maintain your power through having sex with children, killing children for these gods.
Right.
And it's sick, dude. It's sick.
I couldn't get the name of the owl god, but it is a god per se that they actually call it that. And the ritual,
I think it's a Mesopotamian god.
yeah, something like that.
But I don't know. Don't quote me on whether it's Mesopotamian. But anyway, yeah, there's video. At least at that time, there was video footage of George Bush, of Hillary Clinton, of Bill Clinton going to Bohemian Grove, clothed in their cloaks, because they have to wear these ritualistic garments
Right.
there, because that's quote unquote a holy place for them, right? For them to perform these rituals. And yeah, man, like back at that time, there was so much evidence for the Illuminati. But now you really have to scour the internet in order to find it, because YouTube, if you load something up, it's getting removed. Or the only stuff that I can even find is really cheesy stuff that they don't even provide any good evidence for.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Like there used to be a lot of
It's heavily filtered.
yeah,
Definitely.
heavily filtered. And I'm not sure if that's part of the conspiracy of the elite having control over what we're allowed to learn,
Yeah.
or if it's just the owner of the company seeing, oh, you know what? If these people buy into this, there's going to be a rebellion, and this is just going to cause too much chaos in society against the powers that be, which you could even say, anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, man, even like companies like Shell, companies like Apple, their logos are all, companies like Starbucks, all of their logos have symbolism behind them that are occult symbolism.
I didn't know
Yeah, you didn't know that?
that. Starbucks?
Starbucks, yeah.
The little mermaid chick?
The mermaid chick, yeah, she's called a siren, and that's a mythological creature that's like a woman that sings and seduces sailors and then kills these sailors, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like supposedly all of the major companies that have held their position for the longest time,
Yeah.
all of them incorporate a certain they incorporate certain imagery into their logos or into their packaging to as worship to their gods.
Really?
Yes, exactly. Like the Shell logo was supposedly a rising sun, and I forgot what deity that was a representative of, and there was a whole bunch of different
Raw?
maybe so. Yeah. I mean, they definitely worship Ra.
Yeah.
I mean, but they worship more than just Egyptian gods. They worship many gods.
Yeah.
It's almost like
I don't doubt it.
every it's almost like every god.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you can't really find anything nowadays. But I never listened to Alex Jones. That's interesting that you learned
Yeah.
about it from Alex Jones, because
Yeah.
by the time that he came out with it, I had already knew about it, and I was trying to not research it anymore because I couldn't turn on the TV without seeing this symbolism and feeling like I'm in a world of darkness
Right.
that I have no power of changing any of this,
Yeah.
and felt like just a pawn in their master plan,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I do. I do actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like the Apple logo, for instance. And I don't know if this is true, by the way. I don't know what is true and what is not. But supposedly, from the video that I had watched, the reason the Apple logo had a bite out of it was symbolism of biting from the fruit of tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And it was almost like a celebration of our quote unquote freedom that we obtained through eating of that fruit, even though the biblical way of viewing it is slavery.
I never even looked at that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. God, I can't even remember all of the different things. But basically every huge company has some sort of Masonic, because the Freemasons are one of the secret societies that you start off at a low level. They have what's called degrees, which are basically different levels within the organization, that the higher you get up, the more they allow you to know. So a lot of Freemasons are going to be judges and attorneys, and it starts off as like a social organization where it's like a church. Okay, you have brothers that you can rely on, and they help you out, you help them out.
Right.
But the more their practices are very ritualistic in nature. So you start off with like an initiation, and it's very very non-weird, right? But the higher that you want to go up the hierarchy of the secret society, the more sacrifice it takes, and the more consequence. It's like a gang. It's like there's maybe a gang isn't a good enough. There's a certain point where you know too much to where you can't get out, essentially. And you're performing rituals that are created for one, blackmail. They make you perform these rituals so that if you ever do try to leave or try to say anything that exposes them, then they come out with this video of you doing pornographic imagery with a child, right?
Oh, geez. That makes sense.
A good movie is Eyes Wide Shut. Eyes Wide Shut is actually, they have scenes representing how these secret societies perform their rituals. And the creator of that movie, after it got released, first of all, before it got released, there was like 40 minutes that got taken out after the creator of the movie got killed.
Oh, wow. This came out a long time ago.
Yeah, it did. And I don't know if I really recommend that anybody watches it, but it is a really good representation of the type of stuff that these secret societies do.
Oh, I've seen that poster before. I just thought it was like some corny 90s
He got murdered, dude.
Really?
Yeah, he got murdered.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Supposedly Michael Jackson followed the teachings of the very man that I said was esteemed in the occult. Certain music artists, in order for them to obtain that next level of fame, this goes into that whole selling your soul type of concept, right? Elvis Presley, he got into the occult.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, well, yeah. There was actually, he was reading an occult book whenever he died on the toilet in his bathroom.
Really?
Yeah. Or at least from what I remember. I do know that he did have occult books in his house, but I want to say that there was an occult book in the bathroom, which occult basically means secret knowledge. But this secret knowledge is very satanic in nature. It's wicked knowledge. You're not just giving to the poor. You're definitely making sacrifices that are immoral in nature, that everybody would say is immoral.
Right.
Even rituals with animals, sexual rituals with animals.
Ooh,
like there's all sorts of stuff.
I don't doubt it.
Drinking blood. But anyway, yeah, that book really scared me straight, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like it just made me have more faith in God because the Bible doesn't speak well of this world anyway. It says that we're in a world of darkness and the ruler of this world is Satan. So it's like, okay, well, it sure does seem like the ruler of this world is Satan. The Bible calls Satan the god of this world. And it's like, yeah, well, I see that, because everything that's glorified through the media and glorified in culture is typically evil.
And yeah, the root of it is evil. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just look at surface level as rappers, really, and the ones that pop off, all they talk about is sex, drugs, money. I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's right there, and even some rappers kind of mock the evil, like Lil Uzi when it first came out. He was all about Satan and the upside down cross, and he's gonna sacrifice himself at 27, something like that. Call it a publicity stunt, call it a selling point, whatever. I think it was kind of like I think it was kind of like I know, but y'all don't know, but I'm gonna make fun of it because y'all don't know. But if you know, just know.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
And I know, because there's different levels to societies and certain groups. I at some point partook in certain things that were super secretive, that will never be revealed. They'll probably have to die before anything ever is said, frankly. Like, just one of them. I'll just reveal one. It's not that bad of a thing, but...
Oh, you know what's I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Google Chrome logo is 666. If you look at it. If you look at the Google Chrome logo, right here on your computer, that's 16, that's 16, and that's 16.
You see a 6? Oh, I guess I do see it. Yeah.
666.
I could see that.
And the importance of 666 is basically the way that the occult looks at 666 is power given to man.
Okay.
Creating your own destiny, having no God above you. You are your own God. Wealth and power is yours, right? So 666 is seen as like something good to the occult. It's like a good number, whereas in the Bible, of course, we know 666 to be like
the devil,
the number of the beast. Yeah. So I just remembered another logo. Another one is the Monster Energy drink. Okay, so the Monster Energy drink has these 3 slashes on it, right? But those slashes, when you look at them, they're the Hebrew number for 6. Each slash is the Hebrew number 6. Then their slogan is Unleash the Beast. And then every single title that's on their drink, it's all named after some form of murder or violence. All of their drinks are named after something representing violence or something aggressive.
That explains Murderous Lemonade.
Oh,
I was wondering why it said that.
Anyway, but seriously, like if you look up the number 6 in Hebrew, you'll see that that's the exact same symbol that the Monster Energy drink symbol is made from. Man. It's not a coincidence. There's too many things on that. That one thing is brand is one brand that I know is not a coincidence. You can say, maybe the Shell logo isn't satanic, right? It's like, yeah, maybe, I don't know about a rising sun. You can say that about the Starbucks logo, that maybe the person was just into mythology and that's whatever.
Just really good coffee,
Even maybe the Google Chrome logo being 666, although once you study the occult and the Illuminati enough, it's like, yeah, I don't even doubt it at this point. It really, any logo that somebody finds something satanic in it, I'm like, yeah, well, that makes sense. Because
to those listening and hearing this, and obviously it's supposed to be entertainment, but there is some truth in there of our actual beliefs in some of this stuff. I don't want you to believe us.
Yeah.
I want you to completely think we're lying and we're BSing.
Yeah, research.
Because what I want is for you to go look and find out for yourself. Call me a liar now. Go look up the information and disprove me.
Yeah.
But once you find the information, if you can find some reasoning of like, I could see that possibility, I want you to actually think about it and then do some more research.
And if you're going to do the research, I recommend using a web browser that's not going to...
DuckDuckGo.
Maybe DuckDuckGo, Yahoo. Yahoo has allowed me to search for things better than Google Chrome.
Or Ask Jeeves, dude.
Maybe that. Use a different web browser because
Internet Explorer.
Google definitely filters out certain things based on the phrases that you type in.
Definitely.
They have blacklisted words that whenever you use this word, they're purposely going to put certain websites not on the top 100 pages because they know you're not going to flip through all of this.
Really?
Yeah, no, they're just blacklisted.
That would explain why every time I look up something in general, there's always like 300 pages of whatever. And I don't know if those are literal 300 websites that are available or if there are 300 words, right? Like the word that I typed in to look up something for sale, let's say shoes, right?
Yeah.
The word shoes pops up as a part of a sentence in these different websites per se, you know, like I don't know how the heck they sorted it out, but that makes sense. Like I definitely, and I mean, that's agreed. I can agree there. Just realistically speaking, Google definitely filters out a lot of stuff, whether not just from a political standpoint like Twitter, because Twitter definitely filters out a lot of like far right extremists. Which is, I mean, in a sense, it makes sense, but in another sense, it's wrong because you're not doing the same for Democrats.
Yeah. You know, there was a slight hint of that thought in my head too.
Yeah.
I was like, man,
let's just say what happened. So obviously we're talking about all this. It's all fun and games. And out of nowhere, this black truck, all blacked out truck just pulled up into the parking lot right in front of us. And it looked like they were looking inside of the store from their truck, right? They pulled up and they just turned around. Granted, we're talking about all this, so we're like, yep, it's our time.
And then before that even happened, I'm trying to research on Google, and all Google says is loading right now. I put it on Wi-Fi, it still won't work. And I'm like, okay. I'm trying not to be a conspiracy theorist right now, you know, and think that Google's listening to us and just like, all right, I'm shutting you down. You're not going to have anything. But I don't know.
They're just proving our point.
Yeah, but I don't know.
But, you know, it's just kind of, it's interesting and it can be overwhelming to look into this types of stuff. Just because when you find out what can be perceived to be the truth, you can have an existential crisis. Because you're like, so what's the point of me being here? What's the point of me saying grind every day, you know, rise and grind and work my butt off and go to college and do everything when the reality is that this was set up for me to do this to begin with. So the government already knew that 70% of us students are going to want to go to college. Half of us will probably never go. The other 25% will never graduate, and the other quarter of it, top 25% will. Like, that's deliberate, you know? And knowing this information can be very discouraging. It almost, at one point when I found out, I was like, well, what's the point? Like, what am I doing? Like, if this is just designed for me to partake in, then what am I doing? Why am I taking a part of this? Why don't I just end this right now? I don't want to be a part of this. Why would I want a family in this, you know?
Yeah.
Like when things are designed for me to fail, things are designed for me to...
Well, I don't think that they're necessarily designed for you to fail. I think that they're designed so that you don't rise to a point where you can have enough power to stop their plan. So like, if you're making $1 million a year, they're not worried about you.
No.
If you're making 20 million, they're not worried about you. 50 million. It's whenever you start getting in billions territory, and then I could imagine that they're going to see you as a threat. You know, it's like, okay, just look at freaking Jesus.
Okay.
It's like Bible. Jesus was crucified
Right.
because the land. You think these people being the government that he was in,
Yeah.
enjoyed the fact that he was amassing all of these followers?
Mm-mm.
Heck no. That they're in
The
a
Romans?
position. Yeah, the Romans.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Romans. They were afraid of losing power. At the end of the day, if you're in power, you don't want to lose it. So it's like, what do you do? Okay, well, shoot, we got to kill him. But it's more than just natural. In my view of things, it's more than natural. It's spiritual warfare, man. Like, first of all, Jesus had to be crucified, so this was all part of God's plan anyway. But on another note, it's like the reason I don't really doubt all of this stuff is because whenever Jesus was in the desert and he was being tempted by Satan, Satan said, if you bow down and worship me, I'll give you the kingdoms of this earth.
Did he really?
Yes. That's what he said to Jesus. And the thing is if Jesus would have done it, there's a whole lot of anyway, that's a different thing. But I believe that that's a promise that is given to man from Satan in general. It's like, okay, bow down and worship me and I'll give you the kingdoms of this earth. It's like Satan will give you power and fame and fortune if he gets your servitude, and if he gets a vessel that is completely willing to work for him.
Right.
I don't put that past. So it's like, okay, because of the scriptures and like I was saying, like the Bible talking about Satan as being the god of this world, and I just don't doubt it. I'm not necessarily saying that all of these theories are true. It's just because the Bible doesn't speak about this world as this beautiful, great place, it's like, I don't doubt it. But what were you going to say?
Hold on, I'm trying to look up. So, we're talking about conspiracy theories and all this, right? And we're talking about societal systems and economical systems that were put in place to keep people in place, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this isn't just something that's theorized per se.
Yeah.
Like the FBI, for example, in the 70s and 80s, deliberately it was found, this is actual documented evidence that they were guilty of basically enslaving black people to drugs, essentially.
Yeah, that's
prime
true.
Example, heroin and crack in the 80s in New York.
Yeah.
Like, I read a whole book on it, man, from a journalist that actually, he grew up in some type of rich area in the state of New York. And because he was a journalist, right, he was like, I got to find out what the heck is going on, because he was seeing some things that were happening and he was just curious. So he moved to Brooklyn in the 80s. He saw firsthand his neighbors' kids, their wives, girlfriends, baby mamas, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Everybody was on crack from one day to the next.
Yeah.
That was not deliberate. That is not just minorities being minorities, or if you want to approach it from the racist point of view, like some people will be like, oh, that's just black people being black. That's just Mexicans being Mexican. No, it's part of the plan. Like, this was deliberately planned out to sabotage and manipulate. So, sure, we have some speculation towards our theories, right? You can just say that, it's just that a theory, but there is some truth behind the theories themselves. Yeah. So the premise to this isn't necessarily just something that's clouded, right? Like, you can see the rain a mile away, so there's clearly some clouds there, right? So anyway, the point is, in talking about this, I remembered I saw a movie that I think you should actually watch, because I found it amazing. Granted, I say that a lot about movies, but in this one in particular, it's called Sorry to Bother You. It has Lakeith Stanfield stars as the main protagonist, and this main protagonist starts off living in California, and dang, I don't want to ruin the movie for you.
It's okay.
You should still watch it. Like, the way they directed it and wrote it, it's fascinating. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
Like, I left the movie theater. I went in alone, and I left the movie theater, and I immediately called one of my sisters, like, dude, I need you to ground me right now because I think I'm having a crisis in my head.
Yeah.
Like, it really got into my head how they broke everything down about societies and control and all this stuff and like symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll spoil half of it, right?
Okay.
Or some of it. I'll give no context to it. So the guy, structure. So the guy, he's in LA, lives in his mom's garage, has a girlfriend that lives with him who's an artist, both super low income. They both smoke weed. They both have aspirations. But like most people that are not poor, but on the poverty line, right? I mean, it's LA. What do you expect? Most of them would just have ideas of what they want to do, but have no plan on how to do it, right? It's fine. It's out of sight, out of mind, what I was saying earlier. I was there. I relate. That's probably part of the reason why it struck a nerve with me. And so the guy gets a job at a call center, right? And she's looking at everything, and everyone's just kind of normal, everyday people. But there's one distinct feature about this call center. It's commission-based. Now, you can get commissions and all that by following the script, but there's one thing you have to do. You have to use your white people voice. So how I speak, how you speak, right, can be perceived by somebody that's from the hood or someone that's from a low-income area. They'll be like, why are you speaking like white people? I mean, that's a common expression.
Yeah.
But in the movie, it's used as the premise to advance in the world. Now, you can say it's just a movie, but I mean, there's some truth to that. Like in the real world, nobody wants to speak to someone that sounds ignorant.
Right.
Even if you have a bachelor's degree, if you speak like you're from the hood,
Yeah.
it is what it is. I'm not saying I agree with it, but it is what it is.
Right.
So Lakeith starts using his white people voice, and he's excelling. And he has like the talent of like speaking like the richest white guy. And at one point, one of the lines, somebody in the movie describes his voice as like, dude, I think you're doing so well because when I speak to you, I feel like everything's okay and everything's going to be okay. Like you speak like all of your bills are paid and you're not even worried about anything. Mm-hmm. Like that. But see, that sense of comfort is something that the people that we're speaking with were aspiring to have, right? Which is something you can relate to somebody that comes from poverty. Like most people that are in that price range, well, not price range, but economical standpoint, anywhere between $5,000 to $20,000 a year, and you have kids and you have nothing going on, right? All you're doing is surviving. Yeah. You don't even have the chance to buy yourself some Jordans unless you're reselling and all that stuff. Like it really is like that, right? And so he was like, yeah, I guess in the movie, he was like, yeah, I guess, this is just what I do. I don't know. I was just born with it. So he starts moving up, right? And the character has his first conflict. It's beautifully written. So at one point, his close friends, who all come from the same area as him, right? And they all work at the same area. It's symbolism for everyone's an average Joe, but somebody happens to excel. But what happens when you excel so much that you move up to the next level? What happens every single time that somebody succeeds? You always get those quote unquote haters. Yeah. But are they really haters, or are they people that you're leaving behind and you just happen to like, I gotta keep going. You know what I mean? Like I can't stop for you. Right. Some people may perceive that as, oh, you selling out. Yeah. Other people are like, no, that's success. Yeah. But that premise is the first conflict. So in the movie, his friends are like, yeah, they're underpaying us. They're cutting our hours just because some of us don't have the white voice just like you. They're treating us differently. And the character is like, yeah, you're right. That's wrong. I'll take a stand with you, all this stuff, right? So the day comes when they're all like, yeah, we're going to take a stand. Everyone take off their headset and we're going to revolt. We're going to demand unionizing, right? So everything's building up and he's having this conflict. Like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do this. I just got this job. I struggled to get here, but okay, I guess I'm trying to be real. I'm trying to be loyal to y'all. And his girlfriend's like, yeah, she's a liberal artist per se. I say liberal just to say like she's revolting. She's against the system per se. And so the day comes. and everyone's standing up. They take off their headset. The manager comes out and he's yelling like, "Hey, get back on your fucking phone!" Like, do all this stuff, like, just obviously. Mm-hmm. And the character Lakeith is just like answering the phone and still answering and still answering. And so all of his friends are just looking at him, but they don't call him out because they see the bigger picture. Was like, fine, you don't have to stand up right now, but you will at some point, right? They start shouting and they all walk out. So out of nowhere, the manager calls Lakeith in, and Lakeith is just like, "Oh man, like I must be in some deep trouble. Like I stood out because I was still seating, but they have some questions." And so they pull him in and they start congratulating him. They're like, "Hey, you just got a promotion." And the character is visibly confused and is just like, "Wait, what? I'm friends with all these people. Like I thought by association I was going to be villainized, right?" And the manager's like, "Oh no, don't worry about them. They're gonna stay where they are. They'll come back at some point. They need this job. But you have a unique talent. But you move up to the next level. So I'm not even your boss anymore. Actually, the boss that owns this building is your new boss. So you're gonna go up to the 17th floor or something like that, because it was like 32 floors. Like the building itself was symbolism for rising through the ranks.
Right.
So they were working like in the basement or on the first floor, and he rose up to the 17th, which is the tip top, but it's somewhere up there. So he goes up and he meets them, and he's like, he asked his former manager at that point, like, "Well, I feel kind of wrong for leaving. Like, I don't feel like I really stood out. I'm good at my job, but I don't know if I want this." And he was like, "Nah, trust me, you want this. Because you want to know how much you're going to get paid?" And he like whispered in his ear. I guess they left it up for speculation. But the character, like the actor, Lakeith Stanfield, really sells it like, whoa, I'm not going to reject that. So he looks back at his people and they're all like shouting at him, like, "What are you doing? Like, don't do it," etc., etc. But he leaves. So he goes. And the character is having these like internal conflicts, obviously, in his head. He's having flashbacks to his girlfriend and talking to his girlfriend about revolting. And so he gets up to the 17th floor. He meets his new boss, and his new boss tells him, welcome to the club. And he shows up, and it's all like super professional. Everyone has their own office, espresso machines everywhere, protein bars everywhere, like super, like eloquent, fancy, all that stuff. He's like, "Oh man, I feel out of place here." Like he has like a rinky-dink suit, just like something put together from Walmart. And so the manager's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Here, they have their own personal tailor. Comes out brand new Armani suit from top to bottom. I don't remember the exact brand, but you get the point."
Right.
So he tells him, "Well, what am I going to be doing up here?" And the new manager was like, "Oh, well, same thing. Answering phone calls, setting appointments, selling product. Same thing you're doing. Nothing's different except for what you're selling." So what he was selling before, I don't remember, but it was super minimal. Let's just say, for example, it was a Comcast membership to a cable company. Let's just say that, not Comcast specifically. So it went from selling something minuscule to selling weapons. To selling bombs, to selling actual human slavery, to selling companies that have factories of minimum wage workers in China, but it's technically legal because they own the company, but the practices are legal in China. Right. But obviously it's not legal in the United States. Outsourcing. And so as you're watching the movie and you're at least somewhat aware of the sociological climate and economical climate and what we're talking about throughout this podcast, you start looking at like, damn, like this is just blatantly calling it out, right? And so the movie progresses from there, and he starts elevating more and more and more. And the director, I saw an interview of the director, because I laughed, dude. Like my mind was blown to pieces. Like seriously, because I'd never seen a movie that just mocks it all, and it's under a comedy, but it's like touching on everything that you could possibly think about if you choose to look for that information. And the director was like, yeah, I've been working on the script for like 30 years now, but there's so much that's changed within the last 30 years. This is 2018.
Yeah.
There's so much that's changed since 1980 something that it was impossible for me to just release it in a certain decade. Like I was consuming and consuming. And if you look at him, he looks like a homeless person. But to me, I looked at a guy that knows way too much, but can't say too much because otherwise they'll kill him, essentially. And it has an amazing end to it. And at the end, obviously, it's supposed to be fictional and supposed to be like exaggerated. But if you actually take the exaggerations and everything away and take the director at his word, he's trying to tell you something without saying it, you know?
Right.
And it will blow your mind if you watch this movie again. It's called Sorry to Bother You.
Sorry to
Bother You. But dude, watch that movie. Like, man, and my sisters, I actually took my youngest one. I think it was my youngest one or the other one. We got stoned. It was huge mistake to go watch that movie high. At that point in time, I was just before I stopped smoking weed. But dude, it was, man, I left that movie the second time watching it high in a different state of mind. Man, I was just like, dude, let's go watch a comedy. Let's go watch some Dave Chappelle. Get my mind off of this. But even that emotion got me even deeper into my head because I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
How many people in real life say, F that?
Yeah.
That's way above my pay grade. I'm just going to smoke a joint and go eat some good food and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that action kind of like out of sight, out of mind, but choosing to be ignorant to the big...
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I got so deep into my head, man. I don't even remember the rest of that day, dude. But that's what I mean by like, you can get real crazy if you start thinking about everything.
Yes,
you can
that's why I stopped researching that type of stuff, dude. Everything was evil.
Yeah.
And I felt so powerless.
Yeah.
I felt trapped inside of a prison that I was woke and everybody else was asleep. Right. And it's like, what a freaking weirdo I was. You know, it's like, I don't know. That comes with its own type of bondage that I allowed on myself during that period of time.
Yeah, and when you look for this type of information, it's you have to be careful because not just because you can have an existential crisis, because it's gonna happen. Like you're gonna be starting to question everything once you start finding answers to the things that you're curious
about. It's the Matrix, dude. It's the Matrix.
Are we going to get into that? Because I was about to say, dude, I've been looking recently into some stuff that's just kind of like, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. Somebody make sense of this.
Yeah.
So I'll get into it. It's fine. Whatever. This is supposed to be that episode. So I had heard about the simulation theory a long time ago. But I thought it was just like, whatever. You're just being crazy. It's ridiculous. There's no way this could possibly be real. This is not me saying that I believe that it is real. But what I am saying is that I acknowledge the possibility of it.
Right.
Because frankly, dude, I with the political climate now, with all the information that's being spread out, even about something as simple as a virus, the coronavirus. I don't know what to believe anymore, just to be frank with you. Like when this first started, I was in one place. Halfway through, like last September or October, I was in another place. Now, even post-vaccination, I don't know what to believe. Dr. Fauci is a liar in my eyes. The government has it out for everybody, and they don't even know what to do because it's always evolving. So quite frankly, I don't even know what to believe.
Right.
So anyway, so it was this guy on the Joe Rogan podcast. First of all, Joe Rogan is the main guy that will have all these, not weirdos, but outcasts on this podcast. And they'll start diving into like their belief system about any and everything. But there's this one guy, I forget his damn name. Out of all the outcasts that he has on his podcast, he was the most composed. He was calm, soft-spoken, very serene. Like he almost like, he was just being like a really nice guy to talk to. And that's his attribute. That's what Joe Rogan loves about this guy. And the guy at some point, oh God, I'm gonna send you the clip just so you can see it.
Yeah.
Because he did this in real time. So Joe Rogan stepped away to use the restroom because this is a 5-hour podcast. Like they sat there and really dissected everything. And so in that minute and a half, the guy just like breaks interview character or, whatever.
Yeah.
And he looks directly in the camera and he starts talking about reality, and your perception of reality isn't the one that you should believe. It's the one that's actually after. Or like he starts talking about simulation stuff.
Yeah.
And it looks like for a second there, he's like, I'm trying to tell you something without telling you something, but I want you to go look for it,
Yeah.
And granted, you can say it was entertainment. Fine, let's just say it was entertainment. But for the sake of this conspiracy theorist podcast, let's entertain it. It was interesting because you don't see that. It's almost like somebody's in the middle of an interview with Donald Trump, right? And everybody knows Donald Trump, but in the middle of the interview, Donald Trump said, "Stop everything." He breaks his personality. It's just telling you, "Hey, this is all a show. Don't believe anything that I'm saying." Right. Wouldn't that blow your mind if he's like, "Wait, what did he just say?"
Yeah,
it was that type of thing. And I'll send it to you just so you know what I mean. But this guy was talking about the simulation theory, and he's like, I'm not saying that this is real. I'm not saying that it's not real.
You don't know this dude's name?
Hold on. So the guy's name is Duncan Trussell, and the podcast is like 5.5 hours long. We had a side conversation. I'm not going to bring it up because, oh man, that's another easily 20, 30 minutes he can really dive into. But the point is that, oftentimes this is knowing this information, whether it's simulation, whether it's string theory, whatever the theory may be of relativity, whatever. I know this stuff and I choose to ignore it for the most part, simply because, like I've said it before on this podcast, I acknowledge the fact that I don't think currently I am intellectually capable of putting myself in a financial situation to where I can become a part of the system, right? Or become a part of that level of like the millionaire status, right?
Millionaire or billionaire?
Millionaire. Let's just leave millionaire.
Right.
It's a little more quote unquote realistic per se.
Okay.
I don't have the intellectual capacity to currently work or do something to put myself in that position to where I don't have to think about this type of stuff. I can just say, whatever, dude. I'm just worried about me and that's it, But instead of doing any of that, I just kind of like, all right, I'm going to enjoy the now, because if I live my life thinking about all these theories and trying to find an explanation for everything, I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be stuck and I'm just going to end up homeless. Like that's the...
Yeah, and crazy. Losing your mind.
That's where Alex Jones comes in.
Yeah.
Because Alex Jones can be an idiot. An absolute idiot. Yeah.
God, what a poor representative of the conspiracy theorist
community. Yeah.
Yeah. God.
But a lot of his things that he said
are true.
Are absolutely true.
Yes.
And they have come to light, like Epstein, the rapist island, and all this child trafficking thing at the higher level.
Yeah.
That was him 20 years ago saying that.
That's right.
And then here we are now.
Yes.
Granted, again, he's, an absolutely horrible representation for the conspiracy theorist community or woke community per se. But it's just,
But, I respect his boldness.
Right. Yeah.
I'll say that much.
You have
to. The
man
is pretty fearless. And I respect that. But the thing is he's not very tactful in his presentation of his points.
He's very rash.
Yeah, he's just blunt and just says it. And it's like he doesn't consider how it's going to be received.
Right.
Which I'm also at fault in that. So I can't criticize that man because, shoot, I also just say stuff without thinking sometimes.
Look, this can actually be like a multiple part podcast topic, because frankly we're kind of limiting ourselves just because we don't want to drag it on to like a single 3-hour episode, and we're trying to sleep, so you'll get it at another time.
Yep.
But we'll pause this for now. We'll continue this topic at a later time. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you look into this topic that we were talking about, and I really hope that all of you and you watch that movie that I was telling you about. If you don't want to research anything and you just want to watch a movie and entertain yourself, watch that. Sorry to bother you. Lakeith Stanfield is the main protagonist. Watch the movie. Talk to me about it when you see me in person. You and the audience that listens to this, for sure. But we're going to round it up. I have no closing statement other than look for the truth, even if it's just your truth, and try to live with it.
Look for the truth. The real truth. That's my statement. I'm just saying.
Yeah. You know,
I believe in objective truth.
I'll say this. I think that if you're going to believe a truth, let it be that God is the answer to all your problems.
Yes.
Let that be a truth, because I think it's the best way to just live about this life without diving into all the evil in this world. And if you don't want to look into that and live your life like that, believe in God, look for God, read the Bible, live that type of lifestyle. Make it as simple as possible to where you can have a family and die in peace and go to heaven according to, Christianity or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't mean to degrade.
No, I know.
But you know what I mean. Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to simplify it.
Or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. God, whoever that is. No, sorry, God. But anyway, this is Mario.
And Clint.
And we're out for now.